I'd like to convene a meeting, the meeting of the August 1st Sewer Commission meeting at the Wacoit Meeting Room. And we are live on Mashpee TV, and we are being streamed through the Mashpee website, mashpeema.gov. So I'd like to start the meeting with a call to order, please, and with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'd like us to observe a moment of silence, please. We'll start the meeting with we'll start the meeting with public comment. We do have a public comment from a person that had sent an email, but I would like to, and as I'm learning my role as the chair of the commission and learning which to respond to, we don't usually respond to public comment. And so, but since it was sent to my personal email, I would request that any emails be sent to the Sewer Commission. But in the future, we'll have public comment that are raised at the meeting and then we record them. So I'm going to just read the one that we received, and I'll also read my response so that it's also read into the record. And then we have other people who are here for public comment that we welcome your say.
Do you want to approve the minutes first?
Would I like to approve the minutes? I would like to approve the minutes. Well, I would like to have you, as commissioners, see if you would like to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, Catherine.
I would just propose that we discuss the minutes. And
Were there any points that you'd like to change or raise on them?
I don't have any. I think they're fine. It's pretty much summarized.
Hearing none, then I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
And vote from each person. Phyllis?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. It was unanimous approval.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
One side, can we ask the town to please raise the flag at some point so it is no longer on the ground?
Yeah, it's
Thank
on
you.
the floor. Yeah.
That would be appropriate. Yes, very appropriate. Okay, so we did receive public comment from a person named Mary Wagon who didn't give her address. But anyway, we know who Mary is. But anyway, I'm going to just read her letter and I'll read my response. Dear Sewer Commissioners, I am in complete agreement with a recent letter published in the Mashpee Enterprise by Irene Chekovich calling on the Sewer Commission to employ a usage-based billing system. And the letter was shown below, but I'm not going to read the letter. Usage-based billing is fair because you pay only for what you use. Being fair is a cornerstone of public confidence and support. We need strong public confidence and support to keep our clean water efforts moving forward. I urge you to employ a usage-based billing system. So again, in my role, and because it came into my personal email, I did give a response, and my response is as follows. Thank you, Mary, for your thoughtful and insightful comments that echo the plea of other citizens about billing for sewer service by usage. Your comments are heard. The commissioner is listening. Jared Meter, the wastewater superintendent, has been exploring and investigating best billing practices from many sources. These solutions are complicated, and we are doing our best to consider the billing solutions that will work best for Mashpee as our new sewer project comes to fruition. We appreciate your input and ask for your patience and as we look forward to the best solutions. And again, I would caution those of you who do want to get your voices heard with the Sewer Commission, please, in writing, if you put it in writing, please go to the website and directly. Are there other public comments? Please come forward and give your name and your address, please. Are we at the beach that we're getting?
Good afternoon. My comment is related to the reports that our future sewer charges may be based on the number of bedrooms in a home. This is supposedly easier, in quotes, but easy is not always good and fair. According to the 2020 census, Mashpee has 10,757 housing units. According to the Mashpee Water Commission, 9,757 individual residences are water customers. This is approximately 91%. The Water Commission also has 31 accounts for shared multifamily, which is like apartments and condos, 325 commercial accounts, and 53 industrial accounts. What could be easier than to charge 91% of the homes based on actual usage? That would also be fair. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm here to address the issue of the sewer rate. I'm sorry, Yvonne Courtney, Prestwick Lane. I'm here to address the structure of the rates. I think I first should tell you that I've lived in Mashpee full-time since 1974, so I consider myself a long-time paying tax member and have shown interest in the past of what happens to Mashpee. I am concerned that people hired people, fixed income, and so their usage is minimum. The biggest usage is in the summertime. I do happen to know there are places where they have Airbnbs, and I have seen personally in a driveway 22 cars. Now, figure 2 people in each of those cars, there's going to be massive usage. If they could have maybe 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms, but still there's 22 people. So to me, it is overusage. So I think when you look at the components of this town, in the summertime, the population increases substantially, and that usage. So to me, it should be based on usage and not on bedrooms. It will impact a lot of senior citizens who are on fixed incomes. So again, I suggest that. And I have just one question. Is this rate or tax, will that be a part of your tax bill, or will it be a separate tax like the water bill?
A separate tax. It would be a separate, it would be separate.
It will be a separate tax like the water.
Separate, I'm sorry, separate charge.
Okay, it was separate charge. Okay, thank you.
And today we'll have an item on the agenda where the wastewater superintendent will be talking about a rate study that we've done. We have a concern with some extra noise that's coming through the microphones, and we're not quite sure where it's coming from. But we'll move on with our. We have on the agenda sewer construction update from GHD. Had that presentation last meeting, representative from GHD. But we will have a full presentation.
There it is. Mike in the middle.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, so we've eliminated the noise. All right, we established a subcommittee that was developed last time for the rules and regulations for the sewer commission. Is there a report from the Rules and Regulations Committee?
We have not met yet. The plan is to hopefully put out next week to everybody meet. We're going to send out tomorrow the first couple of articles so those members can start looking at them on their own at home before we come in and hopefully minimize the amount of time we have to spend sitting there doing it. So that'll be next week.
Excellent, thank you. So now we've added a new item to the agenda where I get a chance to share with you what some of the ideas that I have. And one of them is to talk about our future direction for the commission and to get input from our commissioners. One of the big issues is that we have 2 open positions, and we need to recruit people for these 2 positions. I was told that we do have some help and some support from the town moderator, who has at times posted positions that are vacant positions within the commissions. And I spoke with him earlier this week, and he has agreed to post some positions directly for the sewer commission. The other thing I would like the commissioners to think about for our next meeting, these are ideas for our next meeting on August 15th. Each of you brings a very special talent, very special ideas to the commission, and I value your input. And I would like your enthusiasm to be shared to help us to understand, just briefly, why you have become a sewer commissioner. So if you can think, for those of you who will love presenting, but I would like you to just think about a very brief presentation of what you feel you bring to the commission and why you're a part of it. Each of us has a reason to be here, and it would be wonderful to hear from you, because I think your enthusiasm and the reason why you're here will be helpful in recruiting new members. And if you have ideas for other recruitment ideas and speaking to friends, family, residents, and our 2 openings are at large opening. One is an at-large opening, and one is precinct 2, which is in the Orchard Road area. It's not
Precinct 4. Yeah, precinct 2 is Quiniquisette
Quiniquisette.
Avenue West.
Quiniquisette Avenue West. Thank you.
One thing, it's been determined that we do not necessarily have to follow those designations.
Okay.
So what's open is open. What we need is 2 new members. If you can get it from a vacant group, that's fine, but it's not a necessity. That's been determined.
Thank you. All right, those of you, just to repeat what Commissioner Lyon said, we don't have to specifically recruit for precinct 2, but we'll move forward with this. The other thing that I really am excited about sharing with you is that at the select board meeting, I believe it was the July 15th meeting, the town manager did present his goals for the 24-25 year. And one of the things that was very exciting is that I had been at the meeting and asked if he would attend our sewer commission meeting, since there are a number of the goals that have to do with clean water. He was not able to come to this meeting, but he did send an email to me, which I will be sharing with you as the commissioners for you to look at, so that we can talk about what the sewer commission's role will be in helping the town manager to address the goals toward clean water as laid out by the town manager in the future. I don't want to just give it to you and have you react to it, but you'll have a copy of his email, the goals, and we can discuss it as part of our agenda for next week. I mean, next meeting, not next week, the August 15th meeting. The other request that I had, since we're always examining the components of the 2015 Clean Water Plan, we all know that a part of the Clean Water Plan was shellfish mitigation. And I had asked that members of the natural resources could come and talk to us about shellfish mitigation. This is a very busy time for them, and it would be inappropriate to pull them away from their work to come and report to us. So we will keep in mind that this is a part of what the 2015 plan is, that we will be talking with them, and when their schedule is open, that they have the comfort level of being able to come and talk to us, then we'll have that part of it. If we look at, we want to continue to look at the complete clean water plan, so we'll have input that from the town manager, we'll have input as well in terms of shellfish mitigation. Are there any other issues that you as commissioners see that you would like to have us address as we move forward in the future?
I have one minor suggestion.
Sure.
Right now, the town is very excited about what we're doing, and we're trying to be as open as we possibly can so that we won't have surprises. Nobody likes surprises. And I was going to suggest that we post on our website the agenda of the meeting before we have a meeting. That way, people, if they see it, say, you know, I'd really be interested in blah, 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 I'll come to the meeting. So having said that, I'll put that in the form of a motion,
Why don't you? That would be excellent.
that the agenda for each sewer meeting be posted on the website previous to the meeting.
Just to ask for,
Process. I'm just curious what the process is.
That was my next question.
okay.
I would make an addendum to that motion, that you provide the addendum. We need a person designated to do the addendum, not Susan.
No,
No, the agenda.
Post it.
Yes, that you should post it. Once it has been determined under your authority, post it.
doesn't
By when? This is my question. By
I'll
when?
make Susan do it.
date issue.
No, I agree. No, I think you're great.
I'm not able to post anything to the website. I don't know how to access it.
And I don't either.
No, but we have a person, Karen, would be able to
Oh.
help us with that,
Do it and
to
the town
post it.
clerk
Yep.
would
Can be
do it and
posting
then
it.
the
Okay.
Process afterwards.
But my question is, what was your idea of how soon before the meeting would you like to see it posted?
At least the day before.
Okay, because the agenda has to be into the town clerk 48 hours before the meeting.
Okay.
So
that
the
works.
time that we post it to the town clerk, we could also post it on the website. Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, now we should have the discussion. My apologies for that.
I'm just wondering where,
Where what?
where.
We can put a tab on the, when you go into the webpage, those blue tabs. We can even actually, I think we can put it on the right by the calendar as well. Civic Plus does have a module inside of it, that's the webpage, that you can post agendas and minutes under the master calendar. I just assumed it was a town policy not to, so,
Trying to think how people will access.
yeah, but we can make it its own block item, that you can see agenda, you can see a minutes if you wanted to do it, we can do that.
And then you could take it down
Mhm.
a couple days later, right?
Oh, you can just archive it, it'll always be archived.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they typically post the agenda for the select board, don't they, Michaela? Yeah.
The, if I may, the select board and the planning board both post the agenda and items for discussion that go with that agenda. And it's posted as Jared was describing.
But that, so we're consistent, yeah.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, or
Aye.
aye? Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. So we will make a point to post the agenda prior to the meeting, so those in the community who want to either make public comment on the website or send an email would have, or come to the meeting would have an opportunity to do that. Okay, yes, Commissioner,
This is again, things that you would like to hear from us.
yes.
I would like to see us work with the Board of Health so that when we get our sewage system up and running, any testing is done to search out diseases or whatever levels of contaminants that is present in the sewage, I would like the sewer commission informed about whatever testing is going on with the sewage.
I'm not familiar with how frequently they do that. I know that when COVID was an issue,
Right.
that much of what was happening then was that people were looking at the predominance of COVID virus in wastewater. I don't know how often our Board of Health does testing.
I don't know, but it would be nice if when the testing is going on, we get informed.
Phyllis, why don't you investigate that, come back and let us know?
I think Jared probably knows.
Yes, I already talked with Zach over at the Board of Health. He's in agreements with me as far as, like, for example, use COVID. There was already so much data coming out that when they started saying, oh, wastewater testing, you should do that for COVID, and for seasonal communities, it's not the right thing to do. It actually just puts another layer of complications in trying to figure everything out. The boards of health across the state did a really good job communicating the information. But I'm obviously myself, I don't like doing it because it's money that comes out of us and man hours. But with that being said, I said if there ever becomes a situation where they feel they need to have some sort of additional testing, he is under the understanding, as well as I, that there will be a letter that comes from his department to the commissioners
Okay.
asking for this to happen.
Okay.
And nothing will be done without, first verifying it. And it'll be a case-by-case basis.
Thank you.
Yep.
That satisfies, thank you.
Excellent, okay. The next item on our agenda is to have an update from the wastewater superintendent, Mr. Jared Meter.
All right. So I'll start with, Mike here. So the PEF has been submitted for Mashpee Wakeby. That was turned in last Thursday. And nothing more to report until they come out with the public comment. It did rate, after we did the rating system, it actually rated very high as a project. The only thing that we're cautious about is the fact that it's not supported by the CWMP, but that's during the public comment period. We're gonna submit that additional information. They're working on that now. The goal was to get the application in first, and then we'll backfill that additional information. But without that information, I think they said we scored roughly, according to our calculations, about a 540, which is really high. So,
Could you please clarify what the PEF is about and for what reason, for those who aren't familiar with it? Just a short brief.
I can't give you the exact.
No, not necessarily the name of it, but from your purview,
So the PEF is
what it's
basically the
for.
starting application for the SRF funding.
Okay.
So we submit that, and they put you on a rating system, and then based off that rating, with the limited pool of money they have, they, rate every project across the state based on your needs in certain criteria, nitrogen or nutrient removal, different criterias, and then they just make a master list. And where you end up on that list is pretty important, because there might not be money available for a few years, and then every year other people are adding and removing. So right now, it looks like we're pretty high. So we're just making that response. The PEF was for the Mashpee Wakeby Pond.
Did you come up with a cost, an estimate?
We haven't done the
budget.
budget part of it yet. We're estimating between 10 and 15 million. That's part of the other study they have to do for when this all comes out, to find if it's cost effective. The memo to the select board requesting release of available funds from the Cape Cod Commission DRI. I didn't stay for the meeting. You guys take that up that night? Yes. I couldn't stay for that. So it was approved, so that request is going in. That's what's actually handling the PEF application. So for some back history, we weren't gonna try to attempt it this year because we didn't have funding. So we didn't think we'd be able to attack it this year. So once we were made available to us that we do have the funding and that we can submit additional information after the PEF is submitted, and we decided to move forward this year kind of fast notice. GHD has been working many hours on this one just to meet this deadline. So the select board has approved the letter to the commission to get the nitrogen mitigation money released. Rate study. This is the thing I've been working on. We all did see the article, so I want to make clear we're not done with the rate study. Nothing has been approved. Obviously, you guys have not voted on anything. We are evaluating. If you haven't learned anything about me, I like to look at all the options. I like to look at every scenario, and then when I hear somebody go, well, try this, oh, well, let me go look at it. I like to deal with facts. So we are going through the rate study, and one of the things we're looking at is the, make sure I got this out, okay. I think we need to explain the bigger picture and all the complexities that go into this rate study. It's not just, let's charge people this amount of money. And I think a good place to start is how we're going to operate and how we're different from regular municipal accounting. And so, whoops, wrong key. I'll start with the enterprise fund. So the enterprise fund is what we voted in last town meeting to adopt. It's one of the requirements for SRF funding, and that falls under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half. I put some key points from the DOR handout about Chapter 44, and consider the best practice to promote and maintain long-term financial sustainability for sewer activities. It separates accounting and financial reporting mechanisms separate from all other governmental activities. Now, what that means is we have the town treasury, and our money will be separate. Everything we send out in billing and every revenue we bring in remains within the enterprise fund. So in essence, we operate like a private business within the town with some restrictions and some benefits that a private business doesn't have. We're not allowed, so regular government can't generate a profit. We can have retained earnings and we can budget a surplus if we choose to. But all that money has to be earmarked. Unless it's a retained earnings at the end of the year, we didn't spend our whole budget, we can put it in the retained earnings. We have to justify what that money's for. Traditionally, it's things like when you need a new truck, we're not going to town meeting and saying, hey, we want to get $100,000 for a new vehicle. We'll say, we've been saving our money, $10,000 a year. We've now got enough money, we want to get a new truck, and it's not going to raise your taxes, and everybody approves it. We can also look at bigger projects. We can look at using it to fund the next phase, doing all the preliminary work of the next phase, or maybe the design process. So once revenues start getting bigger and we get bigger, we can look at more different ways. The key is 20%, plus or minus. If our budget, say, is $1 million a year, I can't make anything over $1.2 million. I can't make anything under $800,000. If I do, I have to justify that to the DOR in a long written process and explain it. If it's too low, they're going to come down and mandate you have to raise rates. If it's too high, they're going to come back and say you need to reduce rates or give back or find projects to spend the money on. So those are the things. But also it has, I say, a buffer for us where our operating budget, say, is $1 million. If we do not make that $1 million, the town has to subsidize us. So our money's always guaranteed. So when we send our article forward each year to cover the enterprise fund budget, the operating budget that year, the town actually has written in the town's articles, if we do $1 million, it's $1 million. It's that safety net. And then if it doesn't get spent, the town just keeps it. But if we need it, they already have the borrowing capacity to give us that money. And nobody wants a subsidy like a surprise subsidy, as you used to say. A lot of towns actually operate on a subsidy all the time. They know it, it's coming each year, whether it's a 25%, 50% of the operating costs, it depends on the town. It varies everywhere. It also identifies the total of direct and indirect costs that provide services, and the source of the amount of the revenues to support the services for which a fee is charged. So when we say direct costs would be electric. It would be my water bill. It would be maintenance costs. Indirect costs are things I share with the town. I need an accountant. I'm not independent, so I pay a percentage of the accountant's salary. Mr. Collins is the town manager. We use his services. I pay a portion of his salary. Those would be indirect costs. It's things we share, and we don't want to go get our own, so we pay a portion. So it makes everything so you can easily identify it. Oh, whoops, I actually had that on the other side. So Personal services, expenses and capital outlays for the budgeted, indirect costs, expenditures budgeted for in the general fund. So if it's already in the general fund, we're not just repeating it. And central services department costs. So I already did say that. Benefits the enterprise fund. It identifies total costs of services related revenues for a service, retains and maintains investment income for surplus. So that's the other thing. We can invest those retained earnings and use that to generate more money. You can also lose money, but we could use that to offset, sewer bills in the future. We can have this other source of income, and that would be at the sewer commissioner's discretion. Let's see here. Provides value for the enterprise fund's asset and infrastructure. So one of the things with the enterprise fund is the sewer commissioners also have, if we adopt chapter 40, it gives you the right to be able to borrow money as the commission as well. So that's why you need to know what your assets are worth. So it gives us a means to do that. Provides long-term liability and in the financial statements. So it's when we go for these bigger loans, it just shows the investors this, we have the capital to back these loans, the assets. Let me go on. So the different types of budget options that are inside the enterprise fund, they lay it out in 3 different options. You have break-even budget or level funding, which is traditional government funding. We can surplus a budget, and we can subsidize the budget. Those are basically the 3 ways we can operate. So the Department of Wastewater Management has several areas that we have to worry about funding each year. Obviously the facility, the collection system. A lot of people think once you put the pipes in the ground, that's it, set it and forget it. You never have to deal with it again. There's a lot of maintenance that goes into the collection system. Staffing, we're still working through that process, whether we're gonna do contract ops or, town personnel. Contracted services, there's a lot of things that it ultimately is cheaper for us to contract out. An example we just had yesterday, we had a conversation about vac trucks. That's a $500,000+ piece of equipment, and it requires somebody very good to use it, and it's not something I want to get involved in. And everybody's like, well, you need a vac truck, right? Absolutely not, because when it breaks, it's expensive. It's high pressure, they break a lot. So I would contract that out each year. Emergency services, that could be having a company, a local excavation company, be on call on a contract that says, if I call you with 1 hour, you're gonna show up and dig up that leak that's now coming out of the ground because we had a main break. That could be an emergency service. And then there's other services like HVAC, fire alarm testing and extinguishers getting checked every year. These are things that we don't do in-house, we contract out. And electricians could be another great one. So in order to do this, we have to raise the, like a private business, we have to make the money in order to cover these costs. And this is where we get into the different types of methods. Everybody's used to utility bills. We've had them since you've turned 18. You've paid some sort of bill, most likely in your life, whether it be gas, electric, water. There's many different methods that all these different systems use, and some are better than others. So we're going to start with variable rate. Variable rate billing takes an actual consumption into account. The utility provider determines the bill amount based on the quantity or flow of the services used during a billing period. Variable rate billing is typically denoted as a price per unit. This billing method is common for electricity and water services. So it is a very fair method of billing. You pay for what you use, and that's what that is describing there. And I will go into, instead of breaking this up, I'll wait till the end and explain some of the differences and how they compare. I'd like everybody to hear what they are first. The next one is a tiered rate billing system. It's a lot like the variable, but what it is instead of paying a flat fee per gallon, it would be based off of, and this is where in the article it discussed about incentives to reduce consumption of water. That's tiered rate billing. You start out with a base rate, everybody pays it, and then as you consume more, you pay more. And if you want to pay a less bill, you reduce the amount of flow you use. It can get tricky for the homeowner. I've seen many homeowners try to walk around that dial all the time, and it does get very tricky, because a lot of people don't know how to read their meter. Some people it's by gallons, some of it's by cubic foot, some of them measure every 100 gallons, some of them every 1,000 gallons, and they just don't know. You go online, you read a quick thing, and I'm not a water department guy, and I hate looking at them. They can be complicated if you don't know what you're looking at. And the last one is fixed rate billing. So when I talked about bedrooms, that was me being lazy and not using a technical term. It's a fixed rate billing, and it's used very commonly. I can name 2 towns, I think it's Harwich, I think it's Harwich, and then Eggertown. Eggertown uses a fixed rate billing. They use it on drains. Some people do it on fixtures. So they say every drain in your house is worth X amount of dollars. The problem with that is, and they didn't do an audit for 10 years because they were afraid to, and then they finally went in there, and it took them 3 years to do the audit because you had people that are seasonal, couldn't get into the house. You had people that work all day, and their guys only work during the day and could never get the appointments lined up. Or you had people that just said, no, you're not coming in. So it makes it really hard, and then they had to go other routes. But these are the things that happen. So that's why it takes so long. When it was all said and done, they found out they were losing thousands upon thousands of dollars because people added drains in different areas, and it was never reported to the wastewater department. So meanwhile, everybody's rates were going up when they could have actually stayed the same or gone down if they had accounted for these other users. So it makes it really difficult. So when we were going through the whole process and we got to fixed rate billing, it was like, I don't like that. That's just too difficult, and we're gonna lose money. And then as I explored it and thought about it, we came up with a bedroom count idea. So that's where it came from. The bedroom count idea is because it gets self-audited anyways by the assessors department every 5 years. So it's a tangible fixed item. Going forward with that, the,
Could I ask a question?
yes,
You opened the door because you told us that Harwich and Edgartown are using a fixed rate. What definitively is the rate in Chatham? I'm going to ask 3 questions here. Chatham is number 1. What do they do on a monthly basis? Or is it a monthly basis?
so I don't, Chatham didn't give me how they do it because they're privately operated, so I couldn't find that quickly.
I'll call up and ask them if you want
But
me
I
to.
did get their average annual cost for sewer per year, and that was $636.50 a year.
Per house or per property?
Per property.
636.
Yep. Chatham, in fact, is the lowest on Cape Cod, and
So that was roughly $50 a month.
and they're subsidized. So they're the lowest. The highest on Cape Cod is Provincetown at $1390.95 per property a year. The average sewer bill on Cape Cod and the islands, I'm including the islands, is $961.24 a year. That's the average annual cost.
What is the average in Falmouth?
Falmouth, average annual $842.
And what's the average in Barnstable?
$673.20.
Now, here's the part of the question you're avoiding. How is the Chatham charge compiled? Is it fixed or variable?
So most of the places that are Barnstable, Falmouth, Nantucket, those are done off of centrum cubic foot, CCFs, or HCFs. So they don't actually get
I'm
charged.
going to ask you to define it in words that people understand.
was-
It's tough when you get into the jargon, I know that.
I'm getting
And
ready to do it right
I spent
now.
my life learning the jargon, then moving on to somewhere else so that people could figure out what I was saying.
So I'm gonna do it
So
right now.
are they on a rate or volume basis, yes or no?
It is volume basis,
For
but it's
Chatham?
Chatham. volume basis,
Okay, Falmouth,
volume basis,
Barnstable,
volume basis,
Provincetown,
volume basis.
all right. So they're all variable, none of them are fixed. None of the majors on the Cape are fixed.
No,
None of them go by hotel, well, you may go by hotel rooms, but not by bedrooms
right,
in those 4 towns. Thank you.
yes. So for people that, when I used HCF, it's 100 cubic feet. Some meters, when I was talking before, you can't read.
It's
It
volume.
doesn't turn a dial until it gets to 100 cubic feet. So you're actually not using per gallon, you're taking a bulk in the smaller intervals, but it's not per gallon, so. But a lot closer than a fixed rate system. So one of the, where was I at on here before we stopped? So, fixed rate billing, one of the reasons why I use the word, it's simple, all right? It's transparent. We have a system that we have not run yet. We do not know what the annual costs are truly gonna be. We have a very good rough estimate using electric bills, right? So we're gonna create an operating budget, and then we gotta fund this operating budget. If you do by gallon, one of the things that happens is we relied in the places I was at heavily on your summer population and your hotels. We don't have hotels in this current project. We might in the future. I'm told by some people, high tourist area, and then I'm told by other people, well, the area you're in really is not touristy, that's farther south, and this area is to be pretty consistent. So, but at the end of the day, we have a plant that costs, and I'm gonna use a round number, please do not quote me as this number, I'm trying to use the $1 million mark because it's easier for math. We have a plant, let's say, is $1 million a year operating cost. We have to try to recoup as much of that as we can. If we go on a per gallon method and we do not generate enough money, the town has to subsidize us.
Excuse me.
Yep.
We know how many gallons. Why don't you tell us what it would be?
How many gallons people are you gonna
Must have
use?
done the math.
Talking about how many gallons people are gonna use?
We know how many gallons they use. That's a fixed number, okay? They publish it every year. I can look it up for you if you want.
Yes.
So, apply that to the million.
So you have water-
arbitrary $1 million that you're
Okay,
trying to
so
do.
you have, and that's, I'm trying to get to there, all right? So you have a water use record, that's the use part of that to design the plant, then you also have to build in a buffer, right? Because if you use straight Title V, which most places strictly use, straight Title V ends up with a lot of capacity that never gets used because nobody really uses 110 gallons per bedroom. So this is kind of an in-between with a built-in buffer. That's capacity that I can't give away. I can't add people to the system to say, hey, I got 20,000 gallons here, let me add, another 100 homes. Can't do it because the plan is designed so that if, let's say, your empty bedroom now, your child gets a divorce, moves into the house, now you've got the bedroom filled, right? I have to accommodate for that flow. If you have the illegal Airbnb, I have to account for that flow. So there's unbillable capacity. So when you use other systems like a tiered billing system, which is one we went to in Tisbury from a flat rate system, we went to tiered because it promotes conservation and that's what we wanted. When it came time to actually put the rates, the first tier was basically 80% of the operating budget. Everybody paid it. First 40,000 gallons, everybody was paying $500. Use it or lose it, because we still have to guarantee our money because the year before we had 96 inches of rain and we used to charge people for sprinkler use. Nobody used the sprinklers and we didn't make enough money. So we learned that year, you're gonna get about 80% of your costs and then you're gonna rely on the hotel to get it back. So there, I'm charging you a fixed rate in the beginning, but for lack of a better term, smoke and mirrors, it's not as transparent. If you ask, we tell you, but here we're gonna break out the costs. We also have the fact that the town is gonna subsidize some portion of this. I do not know what that is yet. I've asked if there was a predetermined or a pre-thought in anybody's head, if it's a 20%, 30, 40%. Have not been given that yet, so I've been working with different scenarios. What if the town does 25%? What if the town does 50%? What's that work into? And then we divide the cost. If we weren't to use this system and we went to a tiered, you're gonna see a high first tier approximately in the same area. and maybe even a little bit cheaper. But then you're gonna see heavily increases if you break that. And people are gonna be upset. The other thing is this will absorb, if you have a break in your basement while you're in Florida for 2 weeks, and you come home and you find your basement flooded, not only does that a problem, but the fact of the matter is now your meter's spun, and I'm gonna charge you for that, especially if you have a floor drain. It's gonna come back into, if it goes back into the system, you will be charged. We happened to us on the Vineyard, the Tisbury Marketplace, a condotized unit, one of the condos, they went to Florida, that's why I said Florida, and they flushed their toilet, and it got stuck open, and it free ran. It was a $23,000 bill. And then the association said, well, we're not paying that, because the association is the account holder. You need to go get it from them. I'm not going to get it from them. I don't hold an account with them, I hold an account with you. It went back and forth for 8 months until we threatened shutting them off. And then they just paid it, and then what they did is they went and added more meters, and they were getting down to 4 units per meter, which was better than what they had. But those are things we're gonna try to avoid. This fixed rate billing is not the best billing in the world. I agree that a tiered billing system to protect the environment, to protect our resources, and to be closely fair as we can to people that use the system is the best way. We're too small. We're gonna end up having that first tier be high in the first place, or we're gonna have to have the town subsidize us heavily. You know, fairness, you know, comes into play, but it's a system that everybody shares. A lot of the costs there are, gotta be shared by everybody. Like, we charge people in Tisbury, if you're not connected to the system, you still pay a fee every month just for us to maintain your flow. Because the collection system is still in front of your house, and I still have to maintain that pipe. A lot of it was incentive to try to get people to connect quicker than waiting 10, 15, 20 years like some of them were. Because again, it's unbillable flow. As we add customers to the process, we can, you know, reduce costs and then look at other options. I'm trying to, I don't want to get too off track here. Some of the considerations I have to take into place, plant capacity. You know, I have to maintain that buffer. We get to 80% of our capacity, the DEP is going to mandate us to increase the plant capacity. So these are, you know, things we have to, operations costs. Those costs right now fluctuate everywhere, in every direction, and some for the better and some for the worse. I mean, steel has been going up 30% like crazy, but we're gaining money on diesel fuel. So, but it's all over the place. We have to make sure we get the revenues to cover all these costs in the unforeseen. And I also got to take into consideration, what is that subsidy impact that I'm going to put on all the taxpayers? All the taxpayers that have paid for this system, all the taxpayers who are not connected to the system yet. And then I'm going to also be asking for money to subsidize the operation of this system that they're not on. And so that is a fairness consideration I have to take into account. So those are some of the considerations I have. We haven't decided anything yet. Everything's being run through scenarios, running like if we did this fixed rate. It also doesn't mean we don't have to lock into the method. Whatever we choose now to get us off the ground, till we start learning what it's going to cost each year to truly operate, how much money are we actually bringing in? I also have to account for people that don't pay. That's a 10% increase right off the bat, just because there are people that will not pay, or can't pay, I should say. So those are those considerations I have to take into account. I want to share a couple more things, like things that I also consider as far as the money value goes. If you were to have an IA system, your average annual cost is about $1,200 a year just to have somebody test and monitor it. To me, that's always my benchmark goal, because I'm the competition to the IA. I'm that other end. If I exceed the IA cost, I'm not better than the IA system. I might produce a better quality of water, but some of those systems out there right now produce a great quality of water, and so I try to stay below that number. Then the other thing I look at is what is the Cape average and what is the state average. What's funny is the Cape average, or the Cape high, is lower than the off Cape high. That's 1,400 in Plymouth. That's state high. The State average is kind of in line with the Cape. It's $960 statewide. And I got those numbers from the Mass Water Resource Authority, annual report on sewer rates.
Would you repeat that, please?
The Mass Water Resource Authority does an annual report. They do an annual report every year, and they do a complete rate study of the state, and that came out of their annual report.
And it was, I'm sorry, what was the number again?
So the average annual is $960.46.
Thank you.
Average annual what?
Sewer bill.
Average annual sewer bill where a municipality is running a sewer system
Yes.
is, give me the number again,
960.
960, okay. Before you got off these numbers, I was trying to go with your previous suggestion, which I think you're gonna end up with because of your math and your logic. How many of these sewer systems on the Cape, or in your experience, however it is, have a one-time basic rate? Let's say an arbitrary number in the case of a system like Mashpee will have, would have an arbitrary rate of $200 per house, $200 per year per user, not house. But then the balance is the variable. Okay? So in this case, if it's gonna come out somewhere around $700 a year, which is a possibility, but I'm just guessing at this point, it would be 200 fixed and 500 in the variable. Now, the people that are not using the house 9 months of the year, their bill would be significantly less because their variable would be lower than someone living in it 12 months of the year. And also, any place where somebody is renting it and they're slipping extra people in, their variable rate goes up. They may live in it themselves and rent it out the rest of the time. They only have a $200 rate as a fixed rate, but the variable would change depending on the impact in our septic system. So this would appear to me to be mathematically one way to address both issues that you're trying to cover. I know you're trying to cover the waterfront as a large fixed operation that has to have funding for annual operations. But most of that is all covered by various laws about what the town can do and can't do. So there's no room for that discussion here, because we can't change anything. That's the way it is. What we can do is study very carefully how to establish a workable rate and spend our time discussing workable rates, investigating them, and then making a recommendation. So I would like to advise or recommend that that's what you do rather than discuss the overall cost again, because that's out of our control.
Right. So in order for us to set rates and things like that, I have to determine our annual operating budget. That gives me kind of like the how much money do I need to make a year. And that's mostly done, but it's getting to those trying to track down like what the gas bill is going to be and then anticipate what increases are going to happen. The one of the things I do like that you pointed out is, so if you're, one of the questions like, hey, we got all these summer people. If you went by a tiered billing system or a usage system, 2-3 quarters, if we bill quarterly, they're not using the system at all. Then they come in and they use the system. That means that base charge that we put in it, or price per gallon, is going to be much greater for the year-round residents, because they're going to have to make up the shortfall of the capacity I have inside the plant. So it's actually increased rates by having seasonal people. A way to combat that could be, we do a summertime sewer rate. Communities that are seasonal do that as well. And they put in, this is what your sewer rate is from here to here, but during these months, everybody's gonna pay a much higher rate, just to make up the difference that we lost. Is that fair to the year-round people? There is no cookie cutter best example, and that's why we're doing this study. And that's why we're looking at all the different, and every time somebody brings something new to me, great, let me go look at it. I'm looking for that better hours. I don't know everything. I like to do research though. And that's what we're doing in this whole process. So the bedroom sims, like I said, that was just something, it's a uniformed item that is common through all of our connection areas, that can be audited without anybody entering the building. The assessors will do it anyways. And it's the basis of Title V. And I can use those numbers for Title V. If anybody's not aware, 310 CMR 15.203, I kind of got this drilled in my head recently, is
But we don't.
yeah, it's the flows, how you design a septic. And that's actually, there is no standard chart and capacity for a sewer plant. So they revert back to Title V per bedroom, and that's how you calculate your flows. On there it has, if you're in a barber shop or a hairdresser, how much flow per chair. If you're in a doctor's office, how much flow per doctor. It lays it all out. By using the bedroom as the base, and that's why I use bedroom as my thing, it's the base 110 gallons. I can now figure out the factor of adjusting that cost based off of your 25, if it's $100, if it's 100 gallons and it's $100, and it's 25 gallons, it's $25. If it's 35 gallons, it's $35 if you're only using it. So it's a way that once you change that base number, that line there, the whole other chart that I have repopulates to accommodate that need. I can tell you that I think it's 1 million with the number of properties we have right now, and this is approximate, it would be at $1 million with no subsidy whatsoever. You're looking at approximately $635 per bedroom. That's with no subsidy, with
You just said per bedroom. You
per
don't mean
bedroom.
that.
That's why I said per bedroom. Now, most houses in the town are 2-bedroom houses, followed closely by 3-bedroom houses. Those are the two predominant areas. This is without a subsidy. We already know we want to do a subsidy. We already know we're going to do a subsidy. I'm just saying that would be the high-end mark. It could be half of that, it could be a quarter of that, it could be whatever gets decided. The goal, like I said, is to get it, try to find that range where it affects the most people. Going forward, you get phase 2 on there, it drops it down to like 200 a bedroom. That's how much of an impact it has. And when we get there and we say, okay, now we're to the point where flow-based is, we could do it, we might sit there and say, because we'll reanalyze the whole process, we might sit there and say, I like 200 a bedroom. If I go per gallon, it might be 300 bedroom.
Jared?
Yep.
We're gonna have to put in 6,000 connections. Why don't you start there? That's where you will generate a reasonably accurate cost for production 5 years, 6 years down the road when the facilities are running. Right now, all you're doing is throwing the ball around and wasting everybody's time with this. It is so impossible to predict today. I appreciate the effort you're going through, but I've done it about a dozen times in my life on major contracts like this one, and it wastes everybody's time. You gotta choose a target somewhere and say, arbitrarily,
So how
one
did you
thing
pay
we
your
can
budget?
all agree with is we're gonna have to sewer somewhere over 5 and less than 10. Pick a number. Then you build your system based on that number for the ultimate rates. In the meantime, you bring it back and you charge the ultimate rate from day one to people as you hook them up, because you've calculated it. It's ethical and it can be confirmed, and it will work.
Correct. I know that. And that's what I'm saying. Right now, that's why we're doing all this work, to make sure in the beginning we're not doing the wrong thing. I have to pay I have a budget that I gotta submit in the next couple months, and then gotta make the revenue to support that budget.
You're
that
not gonna
year.
get any revenue. There is no revenue, so don't
Correct.
talk about it. 5 years from now, we'll have an operating
revenue.
business.
There will be revenue, there won't be a lot of revenue. Follow the next year will be more revenue, still not enough revenue. But I gotta still look at that budget each year. I have to report it to the DOR. I have to ask the taxpayers at town meeting to say, hey, can you subsidize the remaining amount? I have to have those numbers. So it's not, I can't wait 5 years, I have to do it for next year.
The first 40 or 400 would be, as I just mentioned, charged $700 a year under what I just said. And now you have revenue, and it's appropriate for the amount of houses that you, or units that you have on it. So start from the top and let's do that instead of digging it out from the bottom when it keeps caving in on us when we dig, because nobody wants a non-variable rate. You're gonna have to put that back in, okay? And you're gonna have to figure out some standard level which says to everybody, you got water, you're one of 10,000, you're all gonna pay $200, or some other number fixed. And that gives you also the stability to, everybody understands how ethically fair it is and how you move ahead. It's ethically fair, whether you live here 9 months or 12 months, okay, or 6 months.
Well, and that's what we did with Tisbury. With
Come
the
up with
first
those
tier,
things first.
you paid it whether you were here or not. That first tier, but that first tier, like I said, was $400 and something, and that was on an existing system that we knew what it was.
So where do we go from here?
So we're going to continue on with the rate study, but, you know, like I said, I used a lazy term called bedroom just to give you guys an update that we're looking at something, and it turned into, we're using bedrooms and you're going to charge us a lot of money, and it's, no, we're looking at all our options, and that's what today is, to explain to people that we're not there yet. When the time comes, we'll know, because it's going to be a public hearing. We just can't sit down and have a quiet meeting and determine, hey, we're going to charge this amount of money. It has to be a public hearing when the time comes.
And at this point, you'd made it really clear that your initial numbers in terms of properties were coming from the assessor's office, who then determines the tax rate using the standard of bedrooms. However, there has to be taken into account periods of time. So we're talking about 439 units first, then another 1,288 is what has been targeted and been approved and voted on by the town members. We also need, residents. We also need to take into account who's on town water and how that's going to be measured, who's on well water and how that's measured, what's going to happen in terms of commercial properties when they come on board. We have to think about what is making up our wastewater. It's our bathrooms, our laundries, our kitchens. When commercial comes on, it's restaurants and grease traps and whatever's coming out of the restaurants. So all of these things in terms of the plant being able to process all of this material is all based on the initial plan that the plant was designed to accommodate this much flow coming through it from all these units, a little coming on at a time as the town votes the money to support the next group. We've got design of the plan as we go. We've got the construction as we go. We have systems that will be hooked into the wastewater resource facility. There are other areas of the town that you're considering also, as you talked about the Mashpee-Wakeby area, in terms of cluster systems that would not necessarily be hooked into the wastewater treatment facility, but still design and construction costs, some of which you've already found money for. So it's a very complex and complicated system, and we appreciate the amount of effort that goes into this. And we do need to have people still coming forward, asking questions, and are being able to respond as the questions come up. And as you said, when we finally get to the point of determining, going through your information, and then the commission voting on the rate study, or voting on the information to decide what the rate was going to be and what method will be used. So I think I think we have a direction, as you said. You're still considering, looking where we're going. We're getting comments from our residents saying, this is fair, this is not fair, this is, okay, understand where we're going, we're listening to you, we're working through it.
Yep. And that, I mean, you brought up many other good points here when we were talking about meters and who owns them, and you know, who's going to make sure that they're, you know, not tampered with. I mean, there's a lot to it. Water Department owns theirs. I can't touch their systems. Another thing I want to quickly touch upon, that if it does come down to, like, say, a fixed rate or a fixed system, in the policy, this is something I was reading about, just recently learned, we can still put because we can still look at the water use records at the end of the year, get an annual report. What we can do is bounce that off and see if anybody exceeds their 110 gallons per bedroom, which is Title V authorized flow. At that point, we can fine those people for exceeding it, because then they're taking advantage of everybody else paying what we had to process for. So we can put methods in to make sure nobody's abusing the system and taking advantage of everybody else. Just as a side note.
You only need to do that if you're not in a variable system.
Right. That's what I just said.
So you don't make more work when you have to make more work.
Well, one of the things that impressed me when you had spoken about it earlier in other conversations is that in trying to determine usage, not everyone has a water meter in their home. And the addition of a water meter could be $15,000. Who pays for that? Is it the resident? No?
Let's be clear on that one. I
Okay.
want to make, so a regular water meter is usually a couple $100 for a standard house, 5/8.
Okay.
It's a sewer meter. If you want to get, because sewer has solids, I explained, you have a little
We don't do sewer
impeller.
metering.
Yeah.
Forget that. Don't
Okay,
even
so
bring
then
it
we're
up.
not
Right,
gonna,
it's
okay, we're gonna
15
take that
grand
off the
starting,
table.
and it's expensive, and it's something that nobody's gonna want to take on, including myself.
Then we take that off the table. We don't have to mention
Yeah,
that.
it would just be a water meter that we'd install in line from their well. But who owns it? We don't own it. We don't,
But this is one of the complications, whether it's well water, whether it's town water, who measures it, how is it measured, and who's responsible for the measuring.
The well water issue is very simple. It can be done academically through an action of the select board, and that is to charge the average rate of the average house that has a water meter. That's ethical, it's fair, it's been done in other communities. You don't have to put a new meter in everybody's yard. You know, all of those things don't belong being discussed by the board.
Good to know.
They don't.
Okay,
That's Gerard's problem.
fair enough. Thank you. Thank you, Jared. Is there
you.
anything else you'd like to add? Are there any questions of Jared from the commissioners?
no. And if anybody comes up with other ways they can think of, please give me a call, let me know, drop me an email, because like I said, I love researching this stuff, so.
Well, I think we need to make sure that we address the questions that come from the residents. If they do have questions, to contact the sewer commission, the wastewater, it's in the mashpee.ma.gov, sewer commission or wastewater superintendent. Those are the ways that and you do get a response. We do have people who do respond to emails if you have questions, and we do have people who respond to phone calls if you have questions. Jared mentioned how important it is to be transparent, and this was the goal. It is the goal, to be as transparent as possible. However, you have to have confidence in the fact that there's a great deal of research that's going into the complexity of this total situation. Okay, are there any other questions? If you have a question, we will entertain them, but you'd need to come forward, give us your name and address, please, and speak into the microphone.
Where's Sandra today? Sandra?
I don't know. Oh, she didn't feel she needed to come because she presented last week. I don't know, to be honest with you.
Barbara Nichols, 23 Melissa Ave. I've had people come to me to ask if they're on where the sewer line is coming through, do they have to join it? And if they didn't, is there a fine or is there a fee or what?
Yes. If it goes down your street, you gotta hook up to it.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
If it goes down your street,
You have to
you
hook up.
have to hook up
Yeah.
to it.
Within
You'll
90
have Plenty
days.
of time, you'll have over a year's notice ahead of time, and then you'll have, when it gets down to the wire, you'll find out all your neighbors are doing exactly the same thing, so it'll
Yeah.
be very comfortable and easy to do.
Yeah. I just didn't know what to tell them when they asked me. And
The answer is yes.
Tell them yes. Jared, do you have something you want to add, please?
Yeah, ask them to contact my office. We do have
that's what
maps
I
by
did.
property. If their property's not listed on there, then they don't have to worry about it. And then when they do get listed, yes, then it's a mandatory tie.
Their property will be, I believe.
And the rules and regulations that we're going by now is that, that people will have to hook up within 90 days. But as Commissioner Lyons said, they'll have a year to know when they're going to be hooked up so that they have time. But the hookup has to be within 90 days. And the reason for that is that if let's say the collection system is going by their house and they decide not to hook up, how can you begin to develop the flow into the new system that's just been developed? Did you have an additional question? Okay. There are a couple of more other issues. Any other comments from the commissioners? There are a couple of other issues in terms of business. It goes under the additional topics. One is that there was some confusion about our meeting dates and times, and just to clarify, we had voted on the meeting being the first and the third Thursday of the month, not every other Thursday. If it's every other Thursday, then we're mandated, if there are multiple Thursdays, there'd be additional, three meetings, the additional meeting a month. So just to clarify, we don't have to do another vote unless there's some question, but our vote was to have our sewer commission meetings the first and third Thursday of the month at 2 o'clock. Is there any question or concern? Okay, so we're settled with that. There was another question, and this had to do, in a way, with what Jared had presented about the Mashpee-Wakeby system. There had been a request by a group or by a company to look at a type of collection system that could potentially be used as a part of this system. There'll be other types of small cluster systems to be addressed for those properties that are not within the plan as it is set now, that wouldn't be sewered right away. So there are opportunities for looking at other types of systems as wastewater superintendent Meter has looked at, and they've requested that we take a look at this new system. So the question that I had given out to the wastewater superintendent and to the commissioners, whether you would entertain a presentation by a group. It does open the door for other groups that may want to present, or we could establish a subcommittee that would look at these requests to look at systems that are not already being addressed. It's not the same as our wastewater treatment facility nor our collection system as it is now, but to look at new systems that might be coming on board. Commissioner Castaneda.
Can we make sure that they're already approved?
Can you use your mic, please?
Can we make sure that the technology is already approved by the state?
Whether or not they've been, I'm not sure I understand your
Vetted.
question.
State-approved list. They have a state-approved list
So-
that goes to so many thousands of gallons.
Yeah.
I can definitely follow up on that and take a look at it for you and let you know.
Yeah, I don't think we should entertain presentations that are not vetted by the state, or by companies.
Okay, if it's not vetted, so this is, Commissioner Lyons, this was in response to your question about new systems
Yeah.
and whether or not they'd be the same as what's already being in, they're not. They'd be different. They'd be like similar to the cluster system that Jared is requesting to look, is looking at. But
Just a suggestion.
the point was made that we want to be sure that these systems are vetted by the state. Can I also ask a question? If there are other questions like this, is there a subcommittee of commissioners who would like to look at these, do the initial review for the commission, and come up with some of the other issues other than being state vetted?
Sure.
Are there any members of the commissioners who would like to be a part of this?
I'd volunteer, yeah.
Okay, so we have Commissioner Castaneda,
No?
Mr. Towell, and myself. I would be interested as well. So we'll establish a subcommittee to look at these. We'll see whether or not the request for the presentation, if the group that has made the initial request are state vetted, and if they are, then we'll entertain putting them on the agenda for presentation. And if not, we'll have the subcommittee then listen to what the presentation is about. Okay, is there any other business that we need to consider? Yes.
If that's come up on the agenda, I'd like to ask, what was the reason for bringing them up? There has to be a specific goal.
Actually, it was brought
There's
to me.
500 people that do this sort of thing. And why is it this person?
Somebody brought it up to me from the commission, asking me what I thought about it. I didn't bring it to the commission.
No, I
who
brought
was
it up. I brought it up.
Okay,
I was contacted.
What is the reason you wanted to look at it?
Because it was a potential request, it was a potential
Application,
application for a cluster system, similar to the one that's being considered in the Sandwich Mashpee area, that hadn't been looked at before.
okay, but I'll bet within an hour I can find 42 companies to do
Who wanna
cluster
do the-
That's the
systems.
problem.
That's the problem,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
agreed.
Um,
Which is
Jared.
why I then asked the commissioners and Jared whether or not they wanted to entertain the presentation.
Well, first of all, we have to determine for a fact that we need a cluster system. You're saying up on top of the pond might be a good place for it.
That's what we're studying now, yep.
Depending on the cost and the availability of funds. And I'm gonna ask you the critical question, what is the technology of it? Is it gonna be a urine diversion?
No.
Or just a standard process, or smaller scale?
So we had a company come and do a presentation already that gave us an overview of what they do. It was the Amphidrome system, E1, FR Mahoney. It's already approved system in the state. That is one design. We actually do this. We're trying to do package plant in this situation. That's what's going to keep the cost down as opposed to
You're looking
building.
for a package plant.
Package plant.
Those are the keywords.
Yep,
Thank you.
package plant.
Okay.
And so anybody that meets the criteria that we put in the RFP
Okay.
can,
RFP criteria.
yep,
Okay.
RFP criteria.
Then that would be reasonable.
And that's why I was saying, when I said I thought it could be a good idea, if you're not familiar with, because there's so many systems I'm not familiar with.
Exactly,
Most of
no.
them. It could give an opportunity for you guys to, learn a different type of tech. I always learn something new when I see these new things. Oh, I didn't know you could do that, or that's pretty neat how they did that.
Yeah.
Nothing's usually a new technology. What it is, it's a repackage of an existing process that they found a way to make it better.
Okay, does this answer your question, Commissioner Lyons?
So we are willing to look at this package process.
Package process
Okay,
approved by the
Do you know
state.
whether this new request does fit the package process approved by the state? Or
I
you'll
do
find
not know.
out?
I'd still have to look
Okay.
and see if it's even
And
approved.
response to the RFP.
Okay,
Yep. I can ask.
Amounts to, in simple words, is that in a package process system. And I don't know who they are now because I stopped looking at them 10 years ago when we decided not to go that way. But you could literally bring in 4 or 5 trailers, put them up on blocks, hook them up together, and you had an operating
Yeah.
sewer processing plant. You still have a problem of disposal of the clean waste.
And you still have to collect. Yeah.
Okay, so the issue doesn't go away, you don't gain anything other than if it was a village of 80 houses or 70 houses and they're 10 miles from anything else, that's what you'd use, you'd use a package. We have a similar situation on the top of the ponds. I'm not sure that its cost would be less than running one pipe somewhere else, but,
And that's what we'll do in this evaluation and check it out. And that's one of the key things you brought up was about recharge. So what we're looking for is not adding new flow. We're talking about replacing flow. So getting a discharge permit should not be an issue because it's just a one-for-one swap.
okay, so you'll follow through it and then let us know whether or not we should put them on the agenda?
Yep.
And otherwise, we could set up an opportunity for the subcommittee to meet with them and review what's being presented.
Excellent.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Yes,
Meredith, I just wanted to note that Al and I have taken on a website improvement. We want to update
oh, yes, I'm sorry.
the page for the for the water resource recovery facility page. Talk to Jared about this. Al and I will come up with something and present it to Jared, and then we'll get it before the sewer commission.
Would you
Kinda want-
clarify for me again, so this is on the website update?
Yeah,
You
but-
wanted
but
to add
just-
another component?
No, I
No.
just want to update the particular page, the section, I think it's section 2 on the left.
Mm-hmm.
It says Water Resource Recovery Facility. There's information on there that could be improved and updated. So we're going to tackle that before he goes on vacation. So to possibly update with Karen by September sometime. So it's to improve that before sometime in September.
So we should hold off on putting this on the agenda until September?
Yeah, I don't think we'll need it on August 15th. I think September, the first meeting in September, maybe we have it ready, right, Al? Yeah.
Excellent, thank you very much for your work, and thank you, Al, for your assistance on this as well. Are there any other, we have another item on here on the communications website. Jared, did you want to bring that up? about a communications person, or do you want to talk about it at a different time? We were talking about trying to improve communication systems and who has the responsibility for updating and improving and not increasing the workload for people whose workload is already increasing, but we'll look at it further as we look at the website and what needs to be changed on it and who would be doing it. Is that agreeable?
Yeah, it was just a quick conversation. I visited Barnstable and got to meet that they have a full-time communications person. Not that we need a full-time communications person, but no matter how much you try, every time it comes around, I didn't hear that. I never was notified. I didn't know. I mean, I can make you dinner. I can sit you in front of it, but not everybody's going to eat. And I figured this is just another opportunity to maybe have somebody that can do Facebook posts, maybe get that demographic, and then to do. And it's not a full-time position, but they come in, they do like 4 or 5 posts a week, and they gather information as needed and be on call. It was a thought process, maybe like a contracted person, but that was very early.
I think if we could just get the website
Yes.
maintained, we'd be in better shape right then and there. But yeah, maybe that's down the line.
Okay, so we'll table that for now, and we'll just be considering how we're going to be able to get information to the residents of Mashpee, and as questions come in about the new sewer system. We also have to remember, this is a brand-new system that was created in 2022 when ground was broken, and it is developing and growing, and we need to keep coming back and forth to the residents of Mashpee to be sure that they understand what's going on and get their input as we get in public comment. Are there any other issues that any of you would like to bring up for today's meeting?
Hearing none, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Then, are all in agreement?
Aye.
Any abstentions or disagreement? All right, then we are
I have a
adjourned.
great question for you.